And let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like a guy liked you, but he never actually said it? No text, no confession, nothing clear, and yet something in his behavior just didn't match the silence. Because here's the truth, men rarely hide their feelings with their words. They hide them with their silence, but their body language. That gives them away every single time. And have you ever noticed the way someone looks at you and it just feels different, not obvious, not loud, and not something you can easily explain to your friends? But there's something in that moment that makes you pause and think, wait, what was that? And because here's the thing, eye contact is one of the most honest forms of communication we have. Words can be chosen carefully. Messages can be edited, delayed, and or completely avoided. But a look happens in real time. It's instinctive, it's unfiltered. And when a man secretly likes you, and his eyes often reveal what his words are still trying to hide. You see, most people don't realize this, but there's a big difference between looking at someone and seeing them. We look at people all day in classrooms, on the street, at gatherings, and it's quick, automatic, almost meaningless. But when a man is genuinely drawn to you, his gaze doesn't just pass over you, it stays. And even if it's just for a second longer than normal, that second matters. And here's where it gets interesting. That extra second isn't planned. And he's not thinking, let me hold eye contact longer so she notices. No. In fact, most of the time, he's not thinking at all. And his attention is simply pulled towards you. And before he even realizes it, he's locked in that moment just a little longer than he intended. Now imagine this, and you're in a room full of people, maybe talking, maybe distracted, and suddenly you feel it, that subtle awareness that someone is looking at you, and you turn your head and there he is. And for a brief second, your eyes meet. That moment, that's where everything is happening. And because one of two things usually follows, either he quickly looks away and almost like he's been caught doing something he wasn't supposed to do, or he holds the gaze just a bit longer and gives you a small and almost involuntary smile. Both reactions tell you something. If he looks away quickly, it doesn't mean disinterest. In fact, it often means the opposite, and it can signal nervousness, shyness, or the fear of being too obvious. Think about it. If he didn't care at all, why would he react so quickly? And why would there be that sudden shift in his behavior? That reaction comes from awareness, and awareness comes from interest. On the other hand, and if he holds your gaze and smiles, that's confidence mixed with curiosity. It's a silent way of saying, yes, I see you, and I don't mind you seeing me see you. It's subtle, but it's powerful. And here's something even deeper. When someone likes you, and they don't just look at you when you're looking at them. They look at you when you're not looking. And that's why so many of these moments happen when you turn your head unexpectedly. You catch him not because he wants to be caught, but because he couldn't help looking in the first place. There's also a warmth to this kind of eye contact that's hard to fake. It's softer, less guarded, and it's not scanning or evaluating, it's appreciating. You might notice his expression relax when he looks at you. His eyes don't just focus, and they almost light up like something about your presence genuinely affects him. And the truth is, people are naturally drawn to what they like, and their attention follows it automatically. So if you find that his eyes keep returning to you across a room during a conversation in small, quiet moments, and that pattern starts to matter more than any single glance ever could. But here's the key, don't overanalyze one moment, and anyone can accidentally make eye contact once. What you're looking for is consistency. Does it happen again and again? And does his attention keep finding its way back to you, even when there are other people around, other things happening? Because when a man secretly likes you, and his eyes don't just wander randomly, they choose you. Not consciously, not strategically, but naturally. And once you start noticing this, something shifts. And you begin to see the difference between casual attention and genuine interest. You realize that attraction doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, and it shows up in the quietest ways, like a glance that lingers just a little too long, a look that says more than words ever could. And so the next time you catch someone looking at you, don't just brush it off. Stay in that moment for a second. Notice how he reacts, and notice the feeling behind it. Because sometimes, and The truth, it's in what someone says, it's in the way they look at you when they think no one else is paying attention. And have you ever been in a group of people and somehow, without even trying, you can tell exactly who someone is most interested in? It's not always obvious, and no one is announcing anything. There's no dramatic gesture, no clear confession. And yet, and something about the way one person positions themselves keeps drawing your attention. You start to notice a pattern, subtle, quiet, but incredibly revealing. And because here's what most people don't realize: the human body has a direction. And that direction is rarely random. When a man secretly likes you and his body begins to orient itself toward you, almost like a compass finding north, not because he's consciously deciding, and I should turn toward her now, but because his attention, his focus, and his interest are all naturally pulling him in your direction. And this is where it gets fascinating. You might be in a circle of friends, everyone talking, laughing, engaged in the same conversation. On the surface, and everything looks equal. But if you take a closer look, you'll start to notice something subtle yet powerful. His torso is angled slightly toward you, and his shoulders aren't fully open to the group. They're quietly aligned with you. Even more telling, his feet. People almost never think about their feet, and they control their facial expressions. They manage their tone of voice. They even adjust their posture when they're aware of being watched. But their feet reveal intention. They point where the person wants to go, where their attention truly lies. And so if you ever notice that his feet are consistently pointed towards you, even when he's talking to someone else, that's not a coincidence. And that's his body revealing where he feels most drawn. And it doesn't stop there. Watch what happens when you move. Maybe you shift your position slightly and step to the side or walk across the room. Does he subtly adjust his stance? Does his body reorient itself again so that he's still facing you? And these small adjustments often happen without any awareness at all. It's instinctive. His body is simply trying to maintain that connection, that alignment. And now think about this: when we're uninterested or disengaged, our bodies do the opposite. We angle away, we create distance. We turn toward exits and toward other people, toward anything that feels more engaging. But when we're attracted to someone, our body closes that distance, even in the smallest ways. And sometimes it's not about movement at all. It's about stillness. You might notice that when you're speaking, even in a group, his body becomes more fixed and more directed. While others might shift around, glance at their phones, or look elsewhere, he remains oriented toward you. It's as if in that moment, and everything else fades slightly into the background. And here's the key: this kind of body language is incredibly difficult to fake consistently. And someone might consciously turn toward you once or twice, but maintaining that orientation over time across different situations without thinking about it. And that's where authenticity shows. Because attraction isn't just something we feel, it's something our body expresses automatically. And there's also a sense of openness that comes with this. When a man likes you, his posture often becomes more open in your direction, and his arms are less likely to be crossed, his stance less guarded. It's subtle, but it creates a feeling of accessibility, and like he's physically and emotionally more available when he's facing you. And you might not consciously think, and his shoulders are angled toward me, or his feet are pointing in my direction, but you feel it. You feel when someone is present with you, and when their attention is fully there, when their energy is directed toward you rather than scattered around the room. That feeling, it comes from these small and often unnoticed cues. Now here's something even more interesting. This doesn't just happen when things are going well. Even in moments of distraction, and even when he's engaged in something else, his body can still give him away. You might see him talking to someone, but his stance is slightly off center and angled just enough that he can still see you in his peripheral vision. It's like he doesn't want to fully turn away. And that's the difference between politeness and genuine interest. Politeness is evenly distributed. Genuine interest has direction. And so the next time you're around someone and you're trying to understand what they feel, don't just listen to the conversation, and don't just focus on the words being said. Take a step back and observe the bigger picture. Where is his body facing? Where are his feet pointing? And what happens when you move? because while words can be chosen carefully, the body rarely lies. It follows instinct, it follows attention, and most importantly, it follows attraction. And when you start to notice that his body keeps choosing your direction again and again without effort and without awareness, you begin to understand something powerful. Sometimes the clearest sign that someone is interested in you isn't what they say or even what they do. It's the direction they can't help but face. Have you ever been around someone and felt strangely comfortable and almost like you're on the same wavelength, even if you haven't known them for that long? It's subtle. You're sitting there talking, maybe laughing, and without realizing it, something starts to sink. You shift your position and a few seconds later, they do too. And you reach for something and not long after, they make a similar movement. It's not identical, not exaggerated, but close enough to make you wonder and wait, is that a coincidence? Most of the time it isn't, because when a man secretly likes you, one of the most powerful things his body does, and completely unconsciously, is mirror yours. Now here's the important part: mirroring is not imitation. He's not copying you in a way that's obvious or forced. And in fact, if it looks obvious, it's probably not genuine. Real mirroring is delayed, subtle, and almost invisible unless you're paying attention. And it's your body language reflected back at you in soft, quiet ways. You lean slightly forward while talking. A few moments later, he leans in too. And you tilt your head while listening. Soon, you notice his head angle shifting in a similar way. You relax into your chair. His posture softens as well. And none of this is planned. You see, mirroring is deeply rooted in human psychology. It's something we do naturally when we feel connected to someone and when we're comfortable, when we're drawn in. It's the body's way of saying, I'm with you, I'm in sync with you. And when attraction is involved, and that instinct becomes even stronger. What makes this so powerful is that it goes beyond surface level behavior. It's not just about posture or gestures, and it can extend into rhythm, tone, and energy. You might notice that your speaking pace starts to match. If you slow down, he slows down. And if you become more animated, he responds with more energy too. It creates this almost invisible harmony between two people. And here's the thing, and you don't consciously notice all of it. You don't sit there analyzing every movement, but you feel it. You feel when someone is aligned with you, and when the interaction flows effortlessly, when there's a natural ease that doesn't need to be forced. That feeling often comes from mirroring. And now imagine the opposite. You're talking to someone who feels disconnected. Their body language doesn't match yours at all. You lean in, they lean back, and you're engaged. They seem distracted. The interaction feels off, slightly uncomfortable, like you're not quite meeting each other in the same space. And that contrast shows you just how important this subtle sensing really is. When a man likes you, his body wants to close that gap, and it wants to match your energy, your rhythm, your presence. Not because he's trying to impress you in an obvious way, but because on a subconscious level, and he wants to build that connection. And sometimes it shows up in the smallest details. You pick up a drink moments later, he does the same. And you adjust your hair shortly after, he adjusts his sleeve or touches his face. You shift your weight from one foot to another, and then he follows with a similar shift. Individually, each of these moments might seem meaningless. But when you start to notice the pattern, and when you see it happening again and again, it begins to tell a story. It tells you that he's tuned into you. And tuning in is a big deal. And because in a world full of distractions, being fully present with someone, even unconsciously, is rare. It means his attention isn't scattered. It's focused and it's responsive. There's also a level of emotional openness tied to this. Mirroring often happens when someone feels safe and interested at the same time. And it's like his guard drops just enough for his natural instincts to take over, instead of controlling every movement. And he allows himself to fall into sync with you. And that's where authenticity lies. Now here's something even more interesting. Mirroring can go both ways. And you might find yourself doing it too, without realizing it. That's because when two people are genuinely connecting, this synchronization becomes mutual, and it creates a loop where both of you are subtly adjusting to each other, building a shared rhythm. But when it starts from his side, And when you notice him consistently matching you, responding to you, and aligning with you, it's often a strong indicator that his interest runs deeper than what he's saying out loud. The key, though, and is not to overanalyze every single movement. One mirrored gesture doesn't mean much. People naturally mimic each other in social settings. And what matters is consistency and context. Does it happen throughout the interaction? Does it feel natural rather than forced? And does it come with other signs of attention and engagement? Because when all of that comes together, mirroring becomes more than just a behavior, and it becomes a signal that he's not just hearing you, he's feeling the interaction, and a signal that he's not just present physically, he's aligned with you mentally and emotionally. And the most powerful part, and he probably has no idea he's doing it, which means it's real. So the next time you're in a conversation, don't just focus on the words being exchanged, and pay attention to the rhythm between you. Notice the small shifts, the subtle echoes of your own movements coming back to you. Because sometimes an attraction doesn't show up in grand gestures or bold statements. Sometimes it reveals itself in the quiet and almost invisible ways someone starts to move just like you. Have you ever had that feeling where someone just keeps showing up, and not in a way that's obvious, not in a way that you can easily call out, but somehow again and again you find them near you, same place and same side of the room, same moments. And you start to wonder, is this a coincidence, or is there something more going on? And because when a man secretly likes you, one of the most telling things he does is this: he finds reasons to be near you, not loudly, not dramatically. And that word, consistently, is everything. You see, anyone can end up near you once, twice maybe. That's random. That's chance. But when it keeps happening, when there's a pattern forming that you can't ignore, that's when it stops being accidental. And that's when intention starts to show, even if he's not fully aware of it himself. Think about it. We naturally move toward what we're drawn to. And whether it's a person, a place, or even a feeling, our instincts guide us closer to it. And attraction works the same way. When someone likes you and their presence begins to orbit around yours, you might notice it in small situations. You walk into a room and a few minutes later, he's there too. And not right next to you, not in a way that feels forced, just close enough. Within your space, within your awareness. Or maybe you change spots and you move to talk to someone else, you shift to another side, and somehow, after a little while, he ends up nearby again. Not immediately, and not obviously following, but gradually, naturally, he closes the distance. And here's what makes this so interesting. He doesn't need a reason. Or rather, and he creates reasons. Maybe he suddenly has something to say to someone standing near you. Maybe he finds an excuse to pass by your area. And maybe he joins a conversation that you happen to be part of. On the surface, everything looks normal, logical, explainable. But underneath it, and there's a quiet pull guiding his choices. And the key here is subtlety. When a man secretly likes you, especially if he hasn't expressed it yet, and he's not going to make it obvious, he doesn't want to risk rejection or come across too strong or reveal too much too soon. So instead, and he stays within a safe distance, close enough to feel connected, but not so close that it becomes undeniable. It's like he's testing the space between you. And now pay attention to how this feels from your side. You might not immediately think, he's trying to be near me. Instead, you just notice that he's there, and often more than others, more than expected. And that repetition starts to stand out because proximity creates familiarity, and familiarity builds comfort. And comfort opens the door for connection. That's why this behavior matters so much. It's not just about being physically close, and it's about creating opportunities. Opportunities to interact, to exchange a few words, to share a glance, to build something slowly without forcing it. And then sometimes he might not even take those opportunities fully. He might stand near you and say very little. And he might engage with others while staying within your space. But even then, his presence is doing something. It's keeping him connected to you, and even in silence. There's also a certain awareness in this behavior. Even if he's not consciously planning it, part of him is tuned in to where you are, and he notices when you move. He registers your position in the room. And without thinking too much about it, he adjusts his own position accordingly. And it's almost like an invisible thread connecting your movements to his. Now contrast this with someone who isn't interested. They don't track your location, and they don't adjust their position based on where you are. They move freely, independently, without that subtle pull guiding them back towards you. And that difference is what you're looking for. And again, this isn't about one moment. It's about patterns. And does he keep ending up near you across different situations, different days, different environments? And does his presence seem to align with yours more often than chance would allow? Because when that happens, it reveals something deeper than words. And it reveals intention without declaration. And here's something important. This kind of closeness isn't just physical. It often comes with a certain energy. And when someone likes you, being near you feels different to them. It's not just about distance. It's about experience. And your presence becomes something they're drawn to, something they want to be around, even if they don't fully understand why. So they stay close. And not because they have to, not because it's required, but because something in them wants to. And that want shows up in the quietest ways, and standing a little closer than necessary, choosing the seat near you when others are available, lingering in the same area just a bit longer. And none of it is loud, none of it demands attention, but all of it adds up. And so the next time you find yourself noticing someone who just seems to be around you again and again, don't ignore that feeling. And take a step back and observe the pattern. Notice the consistency. Notice the subtle ways he positions himself within your space. Because sometimes, and attraction doesn't come with big gestures or clear words. Sometimes, and it simply shows up as a presence that keeps finding its way back to you, no matter where you go. Have you ever noticed how someone who usually seems calm and confident, completely in control, suddenly becomes a little different around you? It's subtle at first, easy to miss if you're not paying attention. But then you start to see it, the small shifts, the tiny cracks in that composed exterior, and you think to yourself, why is he acting like that? Z. And because when a man secretly likes you, one of the most honest things that shows up is nervous energy, not big dramatic nervousness, and not something exaggerated or obvious, but small physical signs that something inside him has changed the moment you're around. You see, an attraction creates pressure. Not negative pressure, but emotional intensity. Suddenly, how he comes across matters more. What you think of him matters more. And that awareness can make even the most composed person slightly off balance. So his body starts to respond. Maybe it's the way he fidgets. And he adjusts his watch, straightens his sleeves, runs a hand through his hair, not once but multiple times. These aren't random movements. And their self-soothing behaviors, his body's way of releasing that extra energy, that slight tension building inside him. And here's the important part, and he often doesn't even realize he's doing it. It's automatic. You might notice him shifting his weight from one foot to the other when you're nearby, or tapping his fingers lightly against a surface, or picking at something small like the edge of his phone or his clothing. And none of these actions scream, "I'm nervous." But together they paint a clear picture. Something about your presence is affecting him. Now think about this, and when we're completely comfortable around someone, our movements are relaxed, natural, effortless. There's no need to adjust, no need to overthink. But when we care about how we're perceived, when we really care, that's when the body starts to tighten just a little. And that tension has to go somewhere. And sometimes it shows up in the way he speaks. He might stumble over his words slightly or pause in places he normally wouldn't. Maybe he starts a sentence and then changes it halfway through. Or he laughs a little more than usual, even at things that aren't that funny. It's not that he's trying too hard, and it's that he's suddenly more aware of himself. And that awareness creates nervous energy. And you might also notice moments where he seems unsure what to do with his hands. He puts them in his pockets, then takes them out, crosses his arms, and then uncrosses them, holds something just to have something to do. It's a small detail, but it reveals that he's not entirely at ease, and not because he's uncomfortable with you, but because you matter. There's a difference. Discomfort pushes people away. Nervous attraction pulls them in, but with a slight hesitation. It's that mix of wanting to be close and not wanting to mess things up. And sometimes, this nervous energy comes with a kind of restlessness. He might move around more when you're nearby, walk back and forth, shift positions frequently. And it's like he can't fully settle because part of his attention is constantly on you. Even if he's talking to someone else, and even if he's doing something unrelated, there's a part of him that's aware of your presence, and that awareness keeps his energy slightly elevated. And now here's something really interesting. This nervousness often appears specifically around you and not around others. Watch how he behaves with his friends and or with people he's comfortable with. He might seem relaxed, steady, completely himself. But then you step into the picture and there's a noticeable shift, and that contrast tells you everything, because it shows that it's not just his personality, it's your impact on him. And the truth is, and people don't get nervous around someone they don't care about. Indifference doesn't create tension. It doesn't create self-awareness. And it doesn't create that internal dialogue of, am I saying the right thing? Am I acting the right way? Attraction does. Now, of course, and not every small movement means something. People fidget for all kinds of reasons: boredom, habit, distraction. But what you're looking for is a pattern that connects specifically to your presence. Does his energy change when you're around? And do these small signs appear more frequently near you than with others? Does he seem just a little less composed, a little more aware, a little more human? And because that's what this really is. It's the moment where someone who might usually feel in control suddenly isn't entirely. Not in a bad way, but in a real way. In a way that shows they're affected, that something about you has disrupted their usual balance. And there's something honest about that. And because in a world where people try so hard to appear perfect, to seem confident, and to hide any sign of vulnerability, these small moments of nervous energy are actually incredibly genuine. They're not polished, they're not rehearsed, and they're real. So the next time you notice someone adjusting their clothes a little too often, fidgeting slightly, stumbling over their words, or just seeming a bit more restless when you're around, don't immediately assume it's random. Look a little closer. Because sometimes, and what looks like nervousness on the surface is actually interest underneath. And sometimes, and the clearest sign that someone likes you is that they can't be completely calm around you, no matter how hard they try. And have you ever noticed how someone can smile at 100 different people, and yet somehow when they smile at you, it feels completely different, and it's not louder, it's not bigger, it's not even something you can easily explain. But there's a warmth to it, a softness, and something that lingers just a little longer than usual. And you find yourself thinking, why did that feel so real? And because when a man secretly likes you, his smile changes. And this is one of the most subtle, yet most powerful signs. And because a genuine smile is incredibly hard to fake, people can control their words, they can manage their actions, but a real smile, and that comes from somewhere deeper. It shows up before logic has time to filter it. You see, not all smiles are the same. There's the polite smile and the one people use in social situations when they're being courteous, when they're acknowledging someone without any real emotional investment. It's quick and controlled and often disappears just as fast as it appears. Then there's the friendly smile, warm, kind, but still general. It's given to many people and shared easily and doesn't carry a specific weight. But when a man likes you, his smile shifts into something more personal. It becomes softer, less guarded, and more natural. You might notice that it appears a little more slowly, almost like it's unfolding rather than being switched on. And when it does, and it doesn't just involve his mouth, it reaches his eyes. His whole expression changes. There's a subtle brightness and a kind of ease that wasn't there a moment before. And here's the key. He often doesn't realize it's happening. That's what makes it so genuine. Sometimes, and this smile shows up the moment he sees you. You walk into the room, and before he even says a word, there it is, a reaction, a quiet and instinctive response to your presence. It's not something he planned. It's something he felt. And in that moment, his face gives him away. Other times, and it appears during conversation. You might say something simple, not even particularly funny or impressive, and yet he smiles in a way that feels deeper than the situation calls for. That's because it's not just about what you said, it's about you. And when someone likes you, they don't just respond to your words. They respond to your presence, your energy, the way you make them feel. And that emotional response often shows up through their smile. There's also a certain consistency to it. He might smile at others, of course, that's normal. But if you pay attention, you'll start to notice a difference in quality. With others, his smile might be brief, automatic, part of the flow of interaction. But with you, it tends to linger. It feels more engaged, more connected. It's like he's not just smiling at you, he's smiling with you. And sometimes, and there's a hint of nervousness in it too. A slight hesitation, a moment where he smiles and then looks away, and almost like he's aware that he's revealing a bit too much. That combination, warmth mixed with a touch of shyness, can be incredibly telling. And because it shows that the smile isn't just casual, it matters. You might also notice that his expression changes even when you're not directly interacting. And maybe he's across the room talking to someone else, and then he notices you. For a brief second, his face softens. That same genuine smile appears, and even if it fades quickly when he returns to the conversation, those moments are important, and they show you how he reacts to you when he's not trying to manage his behavior. When his guard is down, even for a second, his natural response comes through. And that response is often written all over his face. Now, here's something deeper to consider. A genuine smile is closely tied to emotion. And it's not just a physical movement, it's a reflection of what someone is feeling internally. So when his smile changes around you, and it's not just about attraction on the surface, it's about the way your presence affects him emotionally. Maybe you make him feel lighter, and maybe you make him feel more at ease. Maybe you simply make him feel good. And that feeling translates into a smile that's hard to hide. Of course, and like everything else, context matters. One smile doesn't tell you the whole story. People smile for many reasons. But when you start to notice a pattern, and when his smile consistently feels different around you, when it appears more naturally, lingers longer, and carries a certain warmth, and that's when it becomes meaningful. Because patterns reveal truth. And the truth is, when someone genuinely likes you, their happiness around you isn't forced. And it's not calculated, it's spontaneous. It shows up in the smallest expressions, in the quietest moments, in ways they don't even think to control. And so the next time you see him smile, don't just look at the surface. Look a little deeper. Notice the timing, the feeling, and the way it changes when it's directed at you. Because sometimes the clearest sign that someone likes you isn't something they say out loud, and it's the way their face lights up the moment they see you.